Philippine Coast Guard personnel aboard BRP Teresa Magbanua held a ceremonial flag raising at Sabina Shoal in the West Philippine Sea to celebrate the country's 126th Independence Day while surrounded by several Chinese vessels. This is the first time where the Philippine flag raised in the hotly contested shoal, well within the 200 nautical miles exclusive economic zone of the Philippines, which illegally claimed by China. BRP Teresa Magbanua is at Sabina Shoal to maintain peace and security within the waters of the Philippines' sovereignty. As the Philippine Coast Guard moves to defend one of its strategic features in West Philippine Sea, as China is accused of building new artificial island. BRP Teresa Magbanua, MRRV 9701, the biggest ship of the Philippine Coast Guard, has been deployed to Escoda, also known as Sabina Shoal, to prevent alleged attempt by China to build another artificial island in the West Philippine Sea, according to a PCG official. The 97-meter multi-role response vessel has been guarding the shoal for almost 2 months, when PCG and marine scientific experts from the University of the Philippines noticed the dumping of dead and crushed corals on the sandbars of Escoda Shoal, as if there was an attempt to build an elevated feature resembling a small island. The Philippine Navy also deployed a warship to Escoda Shoal in the West Philippine Sea amid China's alleged reclamation attempts. Commodore Roy Vincent Trinidad, Navy spokesperson for West Philippine Sea, said the country's naval fleet has also increased its maritime patrols, synchronizing the Philippine Coast Guard's efforts in the area. Navy has increased its patrols in Sabina Shoal, and for the past several days, Philippines had one warship stationed in the area. This is to ensure that whoever is piling up dead corals on Sabina Shoal, Philippines maritime authorities will be able to expose their activities. It's very alarming for the Philippines because Escoda Shoal is just 75 nautical miles from the coastline of Palawan. During the entire period that BRP Teresa Magbanua has been guarding Escoda Shoal, they have monitored the presence of 3 People's Liberation Army Navy vessels, 4 China Coast Guard ships including PCG ship with bow number 4402 and 3303, which have been frequently deployed to deny resupply missions to Ayungin Shoal, and 34 Chinese maritime militia vessels. Aside from its proximity to Palawan, Escoda Shoal is also the rendezvous point for the resupply mission to Ayungin Shoal by the Armed Forces of the Philippines and Philippine Coast Guard. It is where the resupply boats chartered by the AFP meet their escort vessels from the PCG to bring supplies for troops on board on BRP Sierra Madre. The Philippine Coast Guard also fielded 2 44-meter vessels, BRP Cabra and BRP Malabrigo, to conduct rotational deployment from Escoda Shoal to Rosal Reef in Recto Bank, which the PCG official said is also being swarmed by Chinese vessels. The dumping of dead and crushed corals on the sandbars of Escoda Shoal was similar to the island building activities done in Sandy Cay in the Calayan Island Group or Spratly Islands in September 2023. Philippine government vowed that the PCG will defend Escoda Shoal from alleged reclamation activities by China. J. Batangbacao, head of the UP College of Law's Institute for Maritime Affairs and Law of the Sea, said the government could use the research team's findings as the basis for a follow-up case to the 2016 arbitral ruling that junked China's 9-line claim in the South China Sea. The act of deliberately destroying coral reefs for reclamation activities is a violation of international law because it contravenes the obligation of nations to preserve and protect marine resources. At the very least, this destruction of corals and deliberate alteration of the marine environment can be a basis for another case to follow up the 2016 arbitration ruling. The Philippines last week welcomed the advisory opinion issued by the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea, which recognized key parts of the 2016 South China Sea arbitration ruling as authoritative. The advisory opinion was in response to the request submitted by the Commission of Small Island States on Climate Change and International Law in December 2022. The Philippines, which is a state party to the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, participated in the proceedings in September 2023 to support the call of small island states for protection against the impact of climate change. According to the Philippines Department of Foreign Affairs, this bolsters and reinforces the legitimacy of the final and binding 2016 arbitration award, and its unassailable status as part of the corpus of international law. The Philippines therefore takes this opportunity to reiterate its continuing call for full compliance with the award. The 2016 arbitration ruling upheld the Philippines' exclusive economic zone over China's historical claims in the disputed South China Sea under UN Convention on the Law of Seas. But China has never recognized the decision. The DFA said that the Philippines is diligently studying the advisory opinion and its implications for the state parties to UN Convention on the Law of Seas, particularly on the duty to protect and preserve the marine environment in the context of greenhouse gas emissions, climate change impacts, and ocean acidification. The Philippines recognizes that advisory opinions are significant contributions to the clarification and development of international law. The Philippines reiterates that the rule of law ensures equity in the global commons and a fair, just, and peaceful multilateral world order. On July 12, 2016, the arbitral tribunal adjudicating the Philippines' case against China in the South China Sea ruled overwhelmingly in favor of the Philippines, determining that major elements of China's claim, including its 9-line, recent land reclamation activities, and other activities in Philippine waters, were unlawful. Predictably, China reacted negatively to the ruling, maintaining it was null and void. China may take assertive and inflammatory steps to defend its position. The extent to which China abides by the ruling in the long term, and to which the international community supports and seeks to enforce the ruling, will have consequences for the utility of international law as a tool to ensure the peaceful, stable, and lawful use of the seas going forward. Economically, diplomatically, and militarily outmatched by China, the Philippines turned to legal arbitration. The Philippines case, comprised of thousands of pages of arguments and documents, asked the court, among other things, to declare whether China's claims based on the 9-line are invalid under UNCLOS. Declare whether certain land features in the South China Sea are rocks, islands, or low tide elevations. And declare whether China has interfered with the Philippines' right to exploit resources within the Philippines' claimed waters. Over the past 7 years, China has expended resources and energy to discredit the Philippines' case and the legitimacy of the proceedings, arguing that it would neither accept nor participate in the arbitration. In the months leading up to the ruling in particular, Beijing began a campaign of diplomatic warfare to solicit support from other countries for its position, and suggested in mid-June 2016 that 60 countries had pledged support to China's position, though in reality only 10 countries made public statements to that effect. The Permanent Court of Arbitration's 479-page ruling was overwhelmingly favorable to the Philippines' position, ruling several elements of China's claims in the South China Sea unlawful. Key findings of the ruling include: China's claims to historic rights and resources within its 9-line have no legal basis. None of China's claimed land features in the Spratly Islands are an island capable of generating a 200 nautical miles exclusive economic zone. China violated the Philippines' sovereign rights by interfering with Philippine oil exploration activities, prohibiting Philippine fishing vessels from operating, failing to prevent Chinese fishing vessels from operating, and conducting land reclamation in areas where the Philippines enjoys sovereign rights to explore for and exploit natural resources. China violated its marine environmental protection obligations under UNCLOS by causing severe harm to the coral reef environment with its land reclamation activities and harvesting of endangered species. China is legally bound by the tribunal's ruling by virtue of its ratification of UNCLOS. The extent to which, and how, the tribunal's ruling might be enforced is an open question. However, the Philippines and others may be able to pursue a range of legal options to punish China should it fail to abide by the ruling, or open negotiations to resolve the matter. China's immediate reaction to the ruling was to release 2 statements: a notably subdued government statement that reaffirmed its territorial sovereignty and maritime rights in the South China Sea, and expressed its desire to resolve the relevant disputes peacefully without making explicit reference to either the Philippines or the arbitration proceedings. And much more hardline statement from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, declaring that the ruling is null and void and has no binding force. China responded by increasing People Liberation Army, China Coast Guard, and maritime militia presence in disputed areas. China seeks to use the People's Liberation Army, the China Coast Guard, and the maritime militia to show the flag in its claimed waters, either with patrols or staged exercises. Increased harassment or intimidation of Philippine or other vessels by either the China Coast Guard or the Maritime Militia, a frequent occurrence in recent years. The PLA also respond by deploying fighter jets or other advanced military assets to the Spratly Islands, which would violate China's pledge not to militarize the area. China so far has refrained from conducting land reclamation at Scarborough Reef, likely due to intense U.S. pressure. Though the tribunal ruled that Scarborough Reef was a rock, rather than an island or low tide elevation, it did not determine whether China or the Philippines has sovereignty over the feature. Further, the tribunal did not deem Chinese fishing activities near Scarborough Reef unlawful. China could possibly develop Scarborough Shoal, in the way it has developed the other reclaimed features in the Spratly Island chain. It could significantly enhance China's military presence in the South China Sea, and establish a military outpost unprecedentedly close to the Philippines, effectively creating a strategic triangle of occupied islands: the Paracel Islands, Scarborough Shoal, and the Spratly Islands, with the ability to host civilian and military infrastructure. China's initial reaction aside, if the ruling fails to alter China's behavior in the longer term, it would send a signal to the rest of the world that adherence to international law is optional. This would degrade the viability of international maritime law as a tool to ensure the peaceful, stable, and lawful use of the seas. This may be the most significant long-term consequence of China's response to the ruling. It also directly contradicts the United States' oft-stated goal of preserving peace through the promotion of a rules-based order in the Asia-Pacific. Considered alongside China's increasingly aggressive and risk-acceptant behavior in recent years, it is becoming clear that the reputational costs of flouting international law have not been sufficient to deter China from advancing its interests in the region in ways that undermine stability. The United States Coast Guard will deploy its North Pacific assets to support the Philippine Coast Guard in upholding its sovereign rights in the West Philippine Sea amid the looming implementation of China's anti-trespassing policy, which encroaches on the Philippines' exclusive economic zone. The Coast Guard from the Philippines, Japan and the United States have reasserted their commitment to keeping the West Philippine Sea free, safe, and secure, as China is set to implement a new regulation of detaining supposed trespasses in what it considers its maritime boundaries. The order's release took place amid rising bilateral tensions over the waterway and as a Philippine civilian resupply convoy sailed toward Scarborough Shoal, which lies within Manila's exclusive economic zone, but is also claimed by China. This is another illegal action of China, Philippine Coast Guard spokesperson J. Terriella said during a press briefing, as Manila rejected Beijing's new policy applied to waters within Manila's EEZ. The mere fact that China claims full sovereignty over Philippines' own exclusive economic zone and China are trying to justify their imaginary 9-dash line, referring to the boundary on Chinese maps that demarcates Beijing's South China Sea claims. As the Southeast Asian country faces growing Chinese pressure in the South China Sea, the Philippines has agreed to buy 5 Coast Guard patrol ships from Japan in a deal worth more than 23.8 billion pesos, and the ships will be delivered in 2027. Japan will loan the Philippines 64.3 billion yen, around $413 million, to buy the 597-meter multi-role response vessels, and Japan will pay for the development of the required support facilities. This will support the PCG in improving its capabilities for maritime operations, particularly in addressing transnational crimes and the aggressive China stint in the West Philippine Sea. These ships are the same size as the biggest one currently in the Philippine Coast Guard fleet. The Philippine Coast Guard currently has 2 97-meter patrol vessels, as part of a fleet seen as insufficient for patrolling waters around the vast archipelago nation. In recent months, its vessels have been involved in several collisions with Chinese Coast Guard ships around disputed reefs in the South China Sea, which Beijing claims almost entirely. Philippine Coast Guard boats have also been fired on with water cannons by the China Coast Guard, with the latest incident happening on April 30th near the China-controlled Scarborough Shoal. The triangular chain of reefs and rocks that make up Scarborough Shoal lies 240 kilometers or 150 miles west of the Philippines' main island of Luzon and nearly 900 kilometers from Hainan, the nearest major Chinese landmass. As the Philippines continue to confront these challenges, it is crucial for the Filipinos to remain vigilant, informed and united. By standing together, Filipinos will able to protect its national interest and preserve the integrity of the nation's sovereignty against any form of misinformation and propaganda. China's recent behavior against the Philippines in the West Philippine Sea represent a blatant disregard for international law and the sovereignty of Philippines. In a despicable display of aggression, Chinese Coast Guard vessels have resorted to deploying water cannons and conducting dangerous maneuvers to obstruct Philippine vessels conducting a routine humanitarian mission to aid local fishermen. The details are clear. The Philippine Coast Guard and Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources were simply trying to provide food and fuel to their fellow citizens. Yet China, with its typical arrogance, has the audacity to claim that the Philippines was illegally entering their waters that rightfully belong to the Philippine Exclusive Economic Zone, as affirmed by international tribunals. China's actions are not only a violation of international law, but a shameful attempt to bully and intimidate Philippines. By using such coercive techniques, China reveals its true colors, a regional hegemon eager to violate others' rights in order to expand its own dominance. The West Philippine Sea belongs to the Philippines, and it has been and will always be an integral part of Philippines' territory. It is the Filipinos' duty to protect and defend their sovereignty in this crucial maritime region. It represents the inherent rights and sovereignty of the Filipino people. It is a symbol of their national identity and a testament to their unwavering commitment to protect their heritage and resources. The history of Filipinos' ancestors who traversed these waters, the sacrifices made to uphold Philippine sovereignty, and the ongoing struggles to maintain their presence in the face of external pressures all underscore the importance of their unwavering commitment to the West Philippine Sea. The Philippines will stand united in asserting their rights and upholding their national interest in the West Philippine Sea, ensuring that it remains an enduring symbol of their nation's strength and resolve.